Kicked out at 17 with only $12 and a trash bag, now my family wants to move into my $750,000 house after years of silence and lies. I was 17 when my father told me I wasn't cut out for success. It wasn't said in anger, no, he spoke it calmly as if he were doing me a kindness. Like the sooner I accepted my role in the family, the smoother life would be for everyone. You're the extra one, he said, eyes still fixed on his newspaper. Your brother is the main event, you're just unnecessary. That single moment etched something deep inside me. From then on, I always felt like a side character in someone else's life. My older brother Nathan was the shining star, the top athlete, straight-A student, and the clear favorite. He got the bedroom overlooking the lake, a brand new car the day he turned 16, and a father who called him champ even when he failed. Me. I received hand-me-down clothes, doubtful looks, and scoldings for simply being too noticeable. At first, I blamed myself. I pushed harder. I started working at 15, kept my grades strong, and even tutored Nathan in math when his own started to drop. But nothing shifted. My mother labeled me lazy when I slept late on Sundays after closing the diner shift. My father claimed I lacked drive when I talked about culinary school instead of university, and Nathan. He just smirked every time they criticized me, quietly savoring each jab. Things reached a breaking point the summer before my senior year. Nathan crashed his car after a party, completely destroyed it while driving drunk. I was the one who discovered him sobbing in the garage, blood on his forehead, pleading with me not to tell our parents. I stayed quiet. I told him I would take the fall. I claimed I had taken the car without permission, panicked, and fled. I hoped this would finally earn me some respect. Maybe they would see I was capable of loyalty and family protection. Instead, they threw me out. My father didn't even raise his voice. He simply pointed at the door and said, "Gather your belongings. You've shamed this family long enough." That night, I slept in a bus shelter just 2 blocks away. The next morning, I returned to collect my school backpack from the porch, only to discover a trash bag filled with my clothes and a note that read, "You're on your own now. Learn something from this." No one reached out, not once. My mother told church members I had chosen the streets because I was defiant. Nathan headed to Florida for vacation 2 weeks later, posting beach photos as if nothing had changed. I survived by working double shifts at a convenience store, sleeping on cardboard in the stockroom whenever the manager wasn't around. But the hardest part, the complete silence, no birthday calls. No holiday cards, no simple check-ins. It was as if I had never been part of the family for 3 full years. It was only after I earned my associate degree in business at community college, after I relocated 3 towns over and started a small freelance marketing company using library Wi-Fi, that I finally felt free of them. Until last month, I received a text from my mother, just one sentence. "Is that your face on the billboard off Route 9? Yes, it was. The local Chamber of Commerce had featured me as a rising young entrepreneur after I helped several nearby shops triple their online revenue during COVID. It wasn't world-changing, but to me it meant everything. Proof that I wasn't just an extra, that I was worth more than a shadow. 2 hours later, my father called. I ignored it. Then the voicemails started, from Nathan, from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, all of them, suddenly friendly, suddenly encouraging, suddenly interested in my life. I didn't reply, not yet. Because I just knew, they hadn't changed. They were only contacting me because they saw I possessed something they needed. And sure enough, the next day my mother called again. This time she left a message. "We're facing some hard times. Nathan and his wife might lose their apartment. We were wondering if you still had that extra room you once talked about." I laughed. Out loud, because that extra room, it didn't exist. I owned the entire house, and I had paid for it in full cash. I didn't answer my mother's voicemail, not that day, not the next. Not even when my Aunt Janice messaged me on Facebook saying, "You know, it would really help the family if you stepped up right now." Stepped up, I nearly choked on my coffee. "Where were you all when I was sleeping under a bus shelter, Aunt Jan?" It's funny how people throw around the word family like it's a free pass. Like blood somehow wipes away everything they did or didn't do. I didn't block them, I didn't post anything angry, I simply stayed quiet, but silence, it turned out, wasn't sufficient. The following week, I returned home from a client meeting and spotted a familiar car parked across the street from my house, a silver Honda Civic, the same one my parents used to drive. I stared at it for several minutes before pulling into the driveway. There was no mistaking it. And sure enough, sitting on the porch with a Tupperware container of what I guessed was guilt-filled banana bread, was my mother. She stood up when I stepped out of the car. "Oh my God, you look wonderful," she said, arms already opening. I didn't hug her. I just looked at her like a stranger because that's exactly what she had become. "Mom," I said quietly. "Why are you here?" She had the nerve to smile as if this were a normal visit. "I wanted to see you. It's been forever. I thought maybe we could talk, catch up." I leaned against the doorframe and stayed put. "Is Nathan okay?" I asked. Her expression shifted, and there it was, the real reason, not love, no regret, not even a half-hearted apology. "He and Alyssa lost their apartment," she said. "They fell behind on rent. The baby is coming and they just need somewhere temporary, just until they get back on their feet. Your father thought maybe we could all stay here just for a few months." I almost laughed. "You threw me out with a trash bag and a note," I said slowly. "I begged you to hear me and you told me to learn something from it. And now you want me to give up my peace, my home, for the son you chose over me?" She blinked, like I had struck her. "It was complicated back then. We were only doing what we believed was best." "No," I interrupted. "You were doing what was easiest. You believed whatever Nathan told you because it made your life simpler." It didn't matter if it destroyed mine. There was silence. For the first time, I saw something close to shame in her eyes, then defensiveness. Well, we didn't know how things would turn out. "You've clearly done well for yourself, so maybe it wasn't such a bad thing after all." That right there. They had abandoned me and now they wanted credit for it. "You're not coming inside," I said firmly. "And you can tell Dad and Nathan and everyone else that this house doesn't have an extra room." She opened her mouth, probably to plead or guilt-trip me. But I was already turning the doorknob. That's when she said it. "You're being selfish." I paused. I turned back around, looked her straight in the eye and smiled. "No, Mom. I'm just finished being useful to people who only remember I exist when they need something." Then I closed the door. She didn't knock again. That night I lay awake replaying everything. The weight of what had happened. The fact that they had the boldness to show up here, to ask for help, to pretend we were still family after everything they had done. For a moment, guilt tried to creep in. That old, familiar ache of what if I'm the bad one now. But I remembered the look on my mother's face that day at the principal's office when Nathan lied about me hitting him. I remembered how she cried for him, how she never once looked at me with trust or love or even interest, just disappointment. I remembered being dragged from school and shoved out of my own home. I remembered the silence. I owed them nothing. Still, I wasn't finished because part of me wanted not revenge exactly, but accountability. So I wrote a message, not to them, to my extended family. The cousins, aunts, uncles, the people who had heard their version of events for years, people who thought I was troubled, defiant, angry. I told them the full truth. I told them about the car crash. The false confession, the trash bag on the porch, the years of silence, the Tupperware visit. I even attached a screenshot of the text Nathan had sent me years earlier, the one where he bragged about how easy it had been to get rid of me. I hit send, and for once I didn't feel scared. The message took about an hour to spread through the family group chat. I had muted it years ago, but suddenly my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. "Aunt Marie, is this real? I never knew this happened to you. Uncle Leo. Your parents said you ran away, that you were doing drugs. Cousin Denise. I always wondered why you disappeared. I'm so sorry." That text from Nathan is disgusting. Message after message flooded in. Sympathy, shock, guilt. A few were awkward and hesitant, the kind of apologetic attempts that felt more about their own discomfort than my pain. But I didn't mind. I hadn't written it for sympathy. I'd written it for the truth. Then came the last name I expected to see in my inbox. "Alyssa, Nathan's wife. I'm so sorry, I had no idea. He told me you were unstable and violent, that your grandmother took you in after you assaulted your mom. I feel sick." I stared at her message for a while, unsure how to reply. She messaged again. "I left him last night," my breath caught. Apparently she had read the email aloud to Nathan. He laughed at first, then turned defensive, then furious. Then he grabbed her phone, tried to delete it, and yelled at her for being naive. Alyssa, 7 months pregnant and finally finished being manipulated, packed a bag and left for her sister, S. She said my message had snapped something inside her. She saw the pattern now and knew their baby deserved better. I didn't celebrate. I just told her, "You did the right thing." That should have been the end of it, but Nathan never liked being exposed. 3 days later, I was leaving my favorite coffee shop, walking toward my car, when I heard someone call my name. I turned and saw him standing there, Nathan. He looked like a faded version of who he once was, unshaven, eyes hollow. Wearing the same varsity jacket from high school, as if he were still holding on to the last time anyone thought he mattered. "You think you're better than me now?" He sneered. I didn't answer. He stepped closer, too close. You always played the victim. Even now what? You want everyone to pity you. You think anyone cares about your sob story? I could smell the cheap beer on his breath. You lied, I said, calm, quiet. Yeah, he laughed, bitter and sharp. So what? You survived, didn't you? You've got your big house and your little billboard, so stop crying. There was so much I wanted to say. I wanted to shout. I wanted to list every night I cried myself to sleep, every birthday I spent alone, every time I doubted my worth because of him. But I didn't. Because he wanted a confrontation. So I stepped around him, opened my car door and said just one thing. You lied, I thrived, and now you have to live with that. I left him standing in the parking lot. That night I had dinner with my grandmother. She was the only one who never needed proof. I told her everything about the email, the messages, even the encounter with Nathan. She listened, hands folded neatly in her lap, nodding only occasionally. When I finished, she reached across the table and held my hand. You did good, she said. That was all I needed. A week later, I received a certified letter from my parents' lawyer. Apparently, they were considering a defamation lawsuit over my email to the family. I laughed, loudly, my own lawyer. Yes. I had finally hired one, told me to relax. Their claims were baseless, empty threats. The attached evidence alone, especially Nathan's own written admission, would destroy them. I never heard back from their lawyer. They went silent again. I guess when you stop being useful, you vanish. That's when I decided to do something I hadn't done in years. I framed the note they had left on my trash bag that night. You're on your own now. Learn something from this. It hangs in my office now, right next to my Chamber of Commerce award. Some people frame their diplomas. I framed a warning and turned it into a promise. Spare, that's what he called me, just a spare, a ghost in the family photo, a seat left empty at dinners. A name barely spoken unless it followed the phrase, what's wrong with her? But do you want to know the cruelest part of being a spare? Spare parts get recycled. And that's exactly what they tried to do, recycle me. It began again with a knock, not a voicemail, not a message, not another car on the street, a knock on my door just after dusk. I almost didn't answer it, but something inside me needed to. When I opened it, I didn't see my father. I saw a man shrinking inside his own skin. Gone was the gruff voice, gone was the superiority. He stood there in a worn sweater, holding an envelope, not a letter, a stack of papers. I'm signing over the house to you, he said, not even looking at me. Your grandmother said. You'd earned it more than any of us ever did, my grandmother. That was the moment I knew something was wrong. She's sick, he added, finally meeting my eyes. No buildup, no manipulation, just a fact. Cancer, stage 4. We sat in silence on my porch, the same porch where my mother had once begged for a spare room. She didn't want to tell you, he muttered, said it would distract you from your work. Said she was proud, that word hit harder than anything else he could have said. I stared out at the garden she had helped me plant last spring. Lavender, rosemary, and marigolds. She called it her living prayer. I could still see the faded gloves hanging over the fence where she had forgotten them last week. I swallowed my anger, because this wasn't about them anymore. This was about her. She passed 3 weeks later. At home, my home, the one they once said I didn't deserve. I held her hand as her breaths grew shallower. She wasn't afraid, she just said, promise me you'll plant something new every spring. That's how you start over. And then she left me, but not before giving me the final gift, a truth I never expected. I found it in a small wooden box under her bed, sealed with a letter, her handwriting, slanted, neat, unmistakable, to the granddaughter they never saw. Inside was a stack of old journal entries. Yellowing paper, notes dated from when I was 9, 11, 14, ages I had long tried to forget. She had written everything, my birthdays ignored, the bruises, the lies, the way Nathan staged every accusation. The way my mother called me a mistake when she thought no one was listening. Proof, she had documented it all, and at the bottom of the box, a deed transfer for her house, already notarized. Already signed, she had made me the sole heir. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't devastated, but because her final act wasn't about sadness, it was justice. She had rewritten our legacy. The funeral was small. I kept it that way on purpose. No open invitation, no family circus, just a list of names I knew would stand still during silence and not try to rewrite history. But of course they came anyway. Nathan, my mother, dressed in black like it could hide anything, standing by the edge of the crowd, waiting for a moment to insert themselves. After the final prayer, my mother approached. She didn't cry, she just looked around at the garden, the house, the community of friends and colleagues gathered around me, people who had chosen me. Then she asked, is it true? Did she leave it all to you? I looked her in the eye and said the one thing she had always denied me. Yes, that night they left a letter on my doorstep. Typed, formal, sterile, a request for temporary accommodation. For healing and transition, it said, they wanted to live in the house, her house. The same house they had abandoned her in when she took me in. I sat there for a long time and then I wrote them back. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Turner, thank you for your interest in staying at the residence located at 49 Maplewood Lane. At this time, all rooms are currently occupied by peace, silence, dignity, and the long overdue scent of lavender. As such, we are unable to accommodate guests who abandoned these values in the past. May you find shelter in the structures you built with your choices. Kindly the spare no more. It went viral because I posted it and for once I told my own story. No edits, no shame, no revenge. Just the unfiltered truth. People shared it, stitched it, messaged me, not for drama but for relief because I wasn't alone. There are so many of us. So many spares who were actually the whole damn engine. Today I walked through my grandmother's garden and planted something new, just as I promised. A single white rose bush named Rebirth. And this time the story doesn't end with exile or anger. It ends with roots because I am not a spare. I am the seed that survived. Thanks for watching and being part of the drama. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a wild new story.